You know that moment, you're halfway through your best verse, the rhymes are hitting, the flow is perfect, you're in the zone, then it happens. Your lungs burn, your voice cracks, you gasp for air between bars, breaking your flow completely, or worse, you rush through the end of your verse, sacrificing clarity just to reach the finish line before your breath gives out. It's a nightmare scenario, but it happens to everyone from first timers to veterans. Hundreds of rappers have at some point experienced significant breath control issues that directly impact the audience's perception of skill. The truth is brutal, but it's simple. It doesn't matter how fire your bars are if you can't deliver them with power and control from start to finish. Most of us approach this problem backwards, writing complex technical verses first, then struggle to perform them within the limitations of breath capacity. It's like designing a sports car without considering the engine size. So today, I'm going to be breaking down my breath mastery blueprint, the exact system I've developed after hundreds of hours of learning from gasping amateurs and of course controlled professionals. This isn't about taking deeper breaths or generic advice you've heard before. This is a methodical, progressive system that rebuilds your approach to breathing from the ground up. In the next 10 minutes, you'll learn why most rappers approach breath control completely wrong and the systematic method to develop lungs that never quit, allowing you to deliver even your most complex verses with power and precision from the first bar to the last. So let's get into it. The respiratory revolution, why traditional breath control fails. Here's where most rappers get it twisted. They think breath control is about how long you can hold your breath or how deeply you can inhale. It's not. True breath control is about efficiency, maximizing your verbal output while minimizing your oxygen consumption. It's not about bigger lungs, it's about smarter breathing. Take Kendrick Lamar's Rigor Mortis. One of the most technically challenging rap performances ever recorded. Kendrick doesn't have superhuman lung capacity. What he has is extraordinary breath efficiency. He knows exactly when to inhale, how much air he needs for each section, and how to modulate his voice to conserve oxygen while maintaining intensity. Now, I get Kendrick could have punched in some of his verses, which means record them in sections, but you can find videos on YouTube of him performing at least the first verse of Rigor Mortis live with barely any breathing. The common approach to breath control goes like this. Write your verse, practice it. When you run out of breath, take deeper breaths or build up your lung capacity through cardio. If that doesn't work, awkwardly edit in breath points that break up your flow. Heck, this was my approach for years. This approach fails because it treats breath as separate from your rapping instead of foundational to it. I'm a pretty active guy. I box, I run laps, and occasionally do those breathing exercises that singers use. I thought all this would also help me with my rap breath control. But this just led to confusion and frustration. I could cycle 10 miles without stopping, but I still couldn't get through a 16-bar verse without gasping. After implementing the breath mastery blueprint that I'm sharing with you, I went from gasping every 4 bars to flowing through 24-bar verses with power to spare. This transformation wasn't about lung capacity, it was about completely rethinking the relationship between my writing, my delivery, and my breath control. Your breath isn't something that supports your rap. Your rap is something that exists within the framework of your breathing. Let that sink in. Most rappers write, then figure out how to breathe. Masters breathe, then figure out how to write within that structure. This perspective shift is what I call the respiratory revolution, and it's the difference between struggling for air and having complete control over your delivery. When you approach rap with breath as the foundation, everything changes. Your writing adapts to work with your natural breath patterns, your delivery finds its optimal pressure points, your presence becomes consistent rather than diminishing as verses progress. The breath mastery blueprint is built on this revolutionary approach. It doesn't just teach you to manage the breath you have, it redesigns your entire approach to create a system where breath issues never arise in the first place. Let's break down exactly how it works. The 4-phase breath mastery blueprint. Imagine performing your most technical word-dense verse with so much breath control that you could actually add more bars to the end of it if you wanted to. Not because you're exhausted but holding on and pushing, but because you're still in your breath comfort zone. That level of control isn't about lung capacity, it's about system design. Here's how to build yours. Find your breath baseline. The first step isn't about changing anything, it's about honest assessment. Most rappers never objectively measure the current breath capacity, so they have no baseline for improvement. You can't manage what you don't measure. Start by recording yourself, performing one of your typical verses at normal intensity. Don't try to impress, just rap naturally. Then review the footage with one specific focus. Mark every point where you take a breath. What you discover is your natural breath pattern, the unconscious system your body has developed for when and how you breathe during performance. Analyze this footage for 3 crucial metrics. Breath frequency. How many bars can you go before you needing to breathe? Breath predictability. Are your breath points consistent or random? Breath recovery. How quickly do you regain full vocal power after breathing? Create a simple breath map of your verse, marking each breath point with a slash. It might look something like this for 16 bar verse. So bars 1, 2, breathe. Bars 3, 4, 5 slash. Bars 6, 7, breathe. Bars 8, 9, 10, breathe. Bars 11, 12, breathe. Bars 13, 14, breathe. Bar 15, 16. This pattern reveals crucial information about your current limitations and tendencies. For most rappers, the pattern is quite chaotic, breathing whenever oxygen runs out rather than at strategically planned moments. Next, perform the same verse but consciously try to extend your breath. This creates your maximum breath pattern. The difference between your natural breath pattern and your maximum breath pattern is your breath extension zone, the range where improvement is immediately possible through conscious control. The final baseline assessment is your recovery test. Perform 4 bars at maximum intensity, then immediately inhale, then count out loud until you need to breathe again. This number is typically between 5 to 15 for beginners. This is your recovery quotient. It measures how efficiently your body processes oxygen during the stress of performance. These baseline measurements aren't just data points, they're the blueprint for everything that follows. You revisit them every 2 weeks to track your progress as we rebuild your breath control system from the ground up. Master rhythmic breathing. The second phase addresses the most common breath control mistake, treating breathing as an emergency response rather than a rhythmic component of your performance. Breath control problems occur when you wait until you're oxygen deprived before inhaling. By then, it's already too late for smooth recovery. You will need to gasp, which breaks your flow. Instead, we implement rhythmic breathing, a proactive rather than reactive approach. Start with what I call beat breathing drills. With the metronome set to your usual tempo, practice inhaling for 4 beats and then exhaling for 4 beats. Then inhaling for 2 and exhaling for 6. Then inhaling for 1 and exhaling for 7. The goal isn't to maximize how long you can exhale, it's to develop precise control over your breath timing. Next practice, the 2-6-2 method. Inhale forcefully for 2 beats, hold for 6 beats while mouthing words without sound, then inhale again for 2 beats. This trains your body to operate while oxygen restricted, building the same adaptation that makes elite swimmers and high altitude athletes so efficient. The key breakthrough comes with flow integration. Take your breath map from phase 1 and redesign it with consistent rhythmic breath points that occur before you need oxygen, not after. A chaotic pattern like 1, 2, breathe, 3, 4, 5, breathe, bars 6, 7, breathe, bars 8, 9, 10, breathe, becomes a structured one like bars 1 and 2, breathe, bars 3 and 4, breathe, bars 5, 6, breathe, bars 7, 8, breathe, bars 9, 10, breathe, bars 11, 12, breathe, etc, etc. And that example, you'll be breathing once every 2 bars, but obviously you can vary it whichever way is comfortable for you, just as long as it's structured and not chaotic. And like I said, you're taking in oxygen before you need it, as opposed to when it's too late. Practice your verses with these pre-planned breath points until they become automatic. You're no longer rapping until you run out of air. You're executing a choreographed sequence of breath and words. Within 2 weeks of consistent rhythmic breathing practice, most people should see a 30 to 40% extension of their breath capacity. Not because their lungs got bigger, but because their breathing became strategic rather than desperate. Develop diaphragmatic delivery. The third phase addresses where your breath comes from. Most rappers breathe from the chest, rapid shallow breaths that fill only the upper portion of the lungs. This is the respiratory equivalent of trying to fill a water bottle by splashing water at the top instead of just pouring it in properly. Diaphragmatic breathing, breathing from the abdominal area rather than the chest, is the game changer. It activates your body's full oxygen capacity while providing the pressure control that gives your voice consistent power. Start with the foundation, the lying down drill. Lie flat on your back with one hand in your chest and the other hand on your stomach. Breathe so that only your stomach hand rises, keeping your chest hand completely still. This isolated movement is pure diaphragmatic breathing. Once you've mastered the basic movement, progress to the weighted development drill. Still lying down, place a light book on your stomach and breathe to raise and lower it with control. Gradually increase the weight as your control improves. The crucial step is transitioning this horizontal skill to vertical performance. Also basically being able to do this while you're stood up. Practice the wall alignment drill. Stand with your back against the wall, feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent. Maintain diaphragmatic breathing while slowly adding elements of your performance. First rhythm, then words, then movement. The final component is dynamic diaphragm control. This is where you learn to modulate pressure from different vocal effects, from soft controlled passages to explosive punchlines, while maintaining consistent diaphragmatic support. When practiced daily for just 10 minutes, diaphragmatic delivery typically creates a 50 to 70% improvement in breath efficiency within 3 weeks. You're now using your entire respiratory system rather than just the top portion. The difference is immediately noticeable: consistent vocal power throughout verses, reduced vocal strain, and the ability to emphasize words through controlled pressure rather than the volume. Trust me, breathing from your diaphragm, like the way I've just explained, is a game changer for your rap delivery and your rap voice. Integrate writing and breathing. The final phase is where everything comes together, the synergy between what you write and how you breathe. Most beginners write without consideration for breath physics. They create tongue-twisting, consonant-heavy sections that require massive oxygen expenditure and place breath-intensive phrases at the end of breath cycles. And then they structure the verses without any natural breathing points. First, breath-conscious writing flips the script by designing lyrics that work with your respiratory system rather than against it. Identify the words that take up the most oxygen, so the sounds and syllable combinations that require more breath to deliver. These will be things like plosives, so p, b, t, d, k, j, and fricatives, f, v, s, z, th. These consume more oxygen than vowels and smooth consonants. Mapping these through your verses reveals where breath pressure spikes occur. Next, implement strategic syllable allocation. Right, so take all the words that take up the most oxygen and then distribute them, spread them out rather than clustering them together. So for example, instead of pick the perfect pitch to paint the picture properly, heavy consonant loading, restructure to paint the picture with perfect precision and pitch, paint the picture with perfect precision and pitch. Alternate in breath heavy and breath light sounds. Develop breath friendly transitions, phrases specifically designed to be delivered as you're taking in air or running low on breath. These become your go-to options when connecting sections. The most advanced technique is pressure mapping, actually designing your verses to create alternating patterns of high and low breath demand, giving your respiratory system natural recovery points without obvious pauses. When I first came across this technique myself, I was already a technically gifted rapper at this point, but I was constantly running out of breath, like I said earlier. I initially pushed back because I felt like this was limiting my writing, the bars that I was writing. But after implementing it and doing some breath conscious writing, something unexpected happened. My verses didn't just become more performable, they became more dynamic, with natural ebbs and flows that enhanced the listening experience. Within a month of integrating these 4 phases, you should develop what I call respiratory invisibility, breath control so seamless that neither you nor the audience ever thinks about it. Your breath becomes invisible, allowing your lyrics, your flow, and your presence to command full attention. This isn't about taking deeper breaths, it's about building a comprehensive system where breath control problems never arise because your writing, your technique, and your delivery are perfectly aligned with your respiratory capabilities. Breath isn't just a biological necessity for performance, it's the foundation everything else is built upon. Now, as we can all see, breath control is crucial for a flawless flow on any genre of rap. If you love flowing to multiple different genres of rap and want to improve your capacity to do so, then I've got a simple but effective PDF that explains some other really important aspects that will help you do that in as little as 90 days. The link will be in the description. And that's the Breath Mastery Blueprint. Take control of your breath and you take control of your art. Now go build your system. Your lungs will thank you, and trust me, your audience will as well. If you're still listening, still watching till the end, thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, also a big thank you to you. The channel would not exist without you. And with all that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.